Good evening, good evening, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 8:53. It is Sunday. I feel like streaming. Well, I always I can't even speak. Can't even speak for a hot second. So we're gonna mostly cover some stuff relating to JF. I do want to cover some stuff I was reading on Twitter relating to I believe he's a Iranian, or I think he's Iraqian. Um, also is on YouTube. But pretty sure some people heard of him. I may cover some stuff relating to what is it? Some stuff related to Ethan Klein. Stop being so gloom spot. I know. Hey. It's only the first couple minutes where I'm very gloomy, very much like that. We may cover a little bit of the door. This is gonna be a long ass stream anyway. I do plan to read an article written by Peter Frost. That caught my interest. I was talking to some people on Discord about things like wheat production and rice in China. The article basically is how rice farming remade East Asia. We're probably going to read a little bit of that, and how wheat and rice had very much affected northern China and western China, and how that affected the Huns, particularly in how they see themselves in the northern South. How I believe something like South Chinese or South Southern Han Chinese are a lot more collectivist, whereas Northern Chinese or Northern Han Chinese are actually much more individualistic due to the production of wheat and rice. What's caught my interest, this is always something I occasionally spoken about in this channel, going into stuff like human biodiversity, the effects of like production in human culture, right? Stuff like that has always interested me, and since especially we're talking about a good old individual called, JF, that was actually interviewed today by Ruby of all people. Very surprising, very small world we live in. That Ruby decided to interview JF. Now JF had been in the news, I would say, quite a bit over the last, let's say, 2 years since the disappearing of Mama JF. Why does that matter about Mama JF? Well, the way Mama JF kind of disappeared, it's a very big mystery, right? Right? Not a lot of people know how she disappeared. Well, people do sort of know, not really. All we do know is he went to the woods one day, because apparently she wanted to go to the woods or something like that, and JF dropped her off from the woods and just haven't been heard. Now there was a few articles coming out that deals with that, right? There has been different, I guess you can say, different opinions on whether or not Mama JF disappearance was done on purpose, or you know it was just her own actions. Because I've heard from some people that Mama JF disappearance was just something she does. She has a tendency to go out and disappear for quite a bit of time, and then only just to reemerge, right? And I believe JF himself actually posted a video on that, right? I did a video on that relating to the JF situation. Give me a second, ladies and gentlemen. I'm drinking some coffee. It should kick in, let's say, in an hour or two. That's when I usually start spurging the heck out, right? That should be fun. A lot has been going on, I would say. Now, there's been a lot of attempt by a lot of people to figure out which, I guess, stories are true or not when it's coming to, let's say, dealing with Mama JF disappearance, right? We heard different things from different sources when it's coming to this disappearance, right? Because a lot of people were very curious because it just kind of happened out of the blue in 2 years, right? Now there was, I believe like a year ago or something, I believe JF moved out of Canada, out of Quebec. There was a number of that. It's gonna be a hell of a stream. Hopefully we don't get shut down. But I am looking for the post looking for the exact post from a couple days ago of JF talking about that and how it's been 2 years since then. Right. Now, it is interesting for me to hear about JF, right? I would assume that for the most part, JF would have just been in his little circle within the, that element of the right wing where it's very much more focused on genetic, HBD, and stuff of that nature, right? If people don't know what HBD mean, it means human biodiversity. There's also things related to human anthropology. Probably said that wrong. Those kind of fields, right? Now, I'm somewhat aware of those things, especially in the past. I was very into things of genetics. Even when I was a kid, even funny enough, my mom would talk about the genetic stuff, also relating to things like your personality and how your personality is a reflection of your genetics, right? Because if you're, let's say, for instance, you have families, let's say, for instance, you're much of an alcoholic, right? You say your personality is very alcoholic, right? Let's say you're an alcoholic, right? That's your personality. You're an alcoholic. That shows a lot of negative traits about you as a person. Now, I don't know how true. Well, that's I kind of do believe her on that front. Right, dysgenic stuff, right? You should always avoid dysgenics in people as much as you can, especially in your friends. My mom was very much about that, right? Right. Yeah, I don't know why my mom was very much focused on that, but let's read the article. I'm betting that spurred Ruby into kind of directly contacting him, or at least getting her interest. So this week marked the 2 years anniversary of Mama F leaving our home and fully disappearing in spectacular fashion. To this day, she has not been found in spite of massive effort of the authority to locate her. Before leaving, Mama JF had obsessively read a new Explorer, Primitive Records by Edward Snowden. Edward Snowden, that's the name I have not heard in a while. Which she had just bought, and explained that our cell phones are traceable and things of that nature. Since it's from 2 years ago, right? Around like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, so around like 2021, 2022, there was a major concern of 5G. I don't know if people remember this. There was a real big concern about 5G cell networks, right? And I remember this even myself, and I still kind of hold to believe that the amount of places they blanket with 5 cell network was extreme. Because if I remember, 5 cell network range isn't as strong compared to, let's say, 4G or even 3G, which has a stronger range of networking or networks, right? It has a much more stronger range. 5G has a much shorter range, even though it's a lot stronger than 4G. But the problem, again, because it has a shorter range, you need to blanket almost the whole area. Now, I don't exactly know the radius of 5Gs compared to, let's say, 4G network. I believe Maduro Z actually did a video a couple of years ago, how he would feel the worst case scenario with 5G due to 5G's damaging effect, right? If people remember around the early 2000s, there was a real big concern about cellular network doing major damage to the human body because of how close you are, right? It's different when you're far away with it, right? It's sort of like how heat is. Like when you're far away from, let's say, a heater or a source of light, right? It isn't as bad, but the closer you get, the hotter the temperature is, right? Especially once you hit the center or that middle part, right? You feel the temperature is a lot worse. So I guess you can equate that to 5G network, right? Or something of that, right? The farther away you are, the less damage, right, from the radiation. From what I remember people telling me when I was very young. Now, if you're an IT person, you can probably explain it much better than I can, right? And if you could, that'd be really cool. But nevertheless, with the 5Gs, right? I can imagine maybe Mama JF felt a certain way about that, right? Felt that maybe that with the rise of 5G cellular network, maybe it was going to do damage to her and her family, right? And that's what I'm going to assume. He left the family with many things, including a Bitcoin debit card on which about $20 worth of Bitcoin dust was left. Today, I spent the dust on a burger, chicken nuggets for the family. This one's on you, Mom Jeff. Wherever you are, know that we are all doing awesome. Now, I think it's kind of strange that she left with the Bitcoin debit card, and then here he said he spent $20 of the remaining, right? The dust, right? If I remember carefully, in a lot of Bitcoin networks or a lot of like places where you can buy Bitcoin, if you have a certain amount, like I believe it has to be a very very small amount. What ends up happening is you can just dust it. It goes back into the system, goes back into the ecosystem. Somebody can correct me because I'm not well versed in that field. So if I'm wrong, what I said, correct me. Because a few times I remember where I wanted to trade or just exchange coins to a much smaller coin because, well, why not, right? I only have a couple cents in this one. Why not move it to another one where I can at least get more out of it, right? A lot of the time you end up dusting them. So, oh, know that person. Small world. Now, how he found the debit card, maybe they had a spare debit card, maybe they had a different debit card that was connected to the account. I'm not sure. Maybe the bank can do that, or because I believe this is actually from the company Crypto.com, which is a network or application on the internet or on your smartphone that you can download and where you can buy or trade crypto or exchange it. I've never really used Crypto.com. I know it rivals Coinbase. It's one of the biggest competitors against Coinbase in that crypto-ish market. Just like how Solar how Solar Flare and Phantom are with each other, right? You have two big competitors in that field. But enough of me talking about cryptos and economics. Let's get into this whole thing about JF. Here we have actually interesting post from Matthew Gospel. Don't worry, JF. Gore got your back on this one. The likelihood that I'm not going to pronounce his freaking name because I'm not French, killed his wife is low to moderate. 20 to 30% compared to the case like Peterson or Walt, where evidence quickly mounted. His story plausible is bolstered by Mama J privacy concerns and the feasible of going off grid, but the delay in reporting the house cleaning raised valid suspicion. In the contrast, guilty husbands in similar cases typically had a clear motive, physical evidence, or behavior inconsistency that emerged early. Without new evidence, ego, a body financial trade or police finding post 2023, the case leans toward an unresolved disappearing rather than a confirmed homicide. However, given the statistic prevalence of immediate partner violence, ongoing police interest suggests that they haven't ruled him out, and public skepticism seen in X reply reflect this tension. For a definitive answer, updated investigation or forensic breakthrough would be needed, something to watch as of June 15, 2025, which was a couple days ago. And so around like 2 weeks ago. Now, the thing is, I'm a little tipsy, ladies and gentlemen. I do apologize. I was just out drinking for a little bit of time. Now, there is another post that goes into this whole thing. There's another post that goes into it. That actually had the actual report of JF and his wife. Now, I don't think I should be around here somewhere. If not, I don't have it. I think I should have it in my bookmark, just in case. Nevertheless, JF is an individual that has been at least making videos, at least as I remember, between 2014 and 2015. Around that same period of time, there was a big thing among right-winger liberals and even libertarians where they started to move away from really libertarian talk and they started to focus more on HBD. Again, HBD is, human biodiversity. At that time period, it wasn't a no-no to talk about it, but it wasn't exactly a taboo. But it was a subject matter that was very tricky to talk about at a time where the SAW still has some political sway on YouTube, and this is right before wokeness became very dominant and even BreadTube. But it was still at the time where the alt-right was on a rise before, obviously. obviously before obviously right before good old um before Richard Spencer screwed it up big time, and with if you don't remember what the destruction of the alt right was, the march on or the march I can't remember the exact march. It was or the name of the rally, but I believe it was called Unite the Right. That was an attempt to, at that time at least, bring the right wing spears all together. At least at that present. Now, not much after the failure of it and everything. Richard Spencer more or less became irrelevant within the greater spear. After that, right? That's basically what the end of the alt-right, because after that many alt-right members either completely moved towards the left. There was many that became breadtube or left wingers, right? After the result of that march, many of them went to jail. Many of them got doxxed, blacklisted. A guy named Vitaly Shan, an individual, right, with a notable person that got doxxed and blacklisted, right? So the reason I have to bring that up because it's kind of important because it is part of JF history on YouTube, and that period of time on YouTube as well. Now let's watch some of this Ruby stuff that JF was on. What the hell was that?
What is up, people? It's all lip slap.
Man, I am not drunk. I am not drunk enough for this. I may have to drink a beer after all of this stuff.
Welcome.
Yeah, it has been really hot.
Thank you so much for the gifted stuff. Suited, that was gamer. Thank you so much, dude. Welcome, people. Welcome. This is episode 41 of Celebrity Sunday, and I gotta be honest, I'm a little more nervous for this one. I'm dabbling into some different kind of territory, and I am going to be having a controversial guest on named JF Gripey, whose career I've been following since probably around 2016. I think he started doing the kind of blood sports, popular debates.
I forgot about blood sports. I really did forgot about them.
Mid 2010s into early 2020. It's gonna be a very, very high IQ. Yeah, these are the cowgirl chaps, but I had a wardrobe malfunction where they were not I couldn't put it over this, so they're just so low.
So long.
Yeah, we're gonna be definitely.
Till next time, we'll be back. So long, somewhere. Dun 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 dun. So long till we'll see them. Hey, dun 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 dun. So long, so way. I have no clue what I'm doing anymore. What's wrong with my life?
And hey, Dalmatian Dog. Shout out to Dalmatian Dog. He's finally gone solo, and his channel is just called Dalmatian Dog, just one word. Where am I supposed to need a cigarette after that? For all that exertion. We're young, we're skinny, we're rich, but we're so nicotine and caffeine addicted that it's reaching absurd territory. I mean, it's been past.
Okay, we're just gonna move on to the actual interview of JF because I think that's actually more interesting. Now, it is quite interesting to see that Ruby would actually have a guy like that on, just because of the background he has, right? Now, he was a lot of people were very concerned, and funny enough, even Ben, for some weird reason, Ben got involved and attacked JF. That to me is quite interesting. A debate between JF and Ben would be quite amusing, given that JF is quite a very, is an atheist, who is very much more, I would say, along the line of like Ubersoy, where they're very Darwinistic, right? You know, survivor of the strongest, whoever can breed and spread their seed, right? That's basically where JF kind of comes down to.
Like, look at Log How Live. Every episode is like 20 minutes of technical difficulties. Keemstar is now claiming that the website is just broken entirely. Oops, I keep like jumping in and out. All right, we've got JF backstage. Let me bring him up.
The goat never ends for Keem.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Pleasure to meet you. Welcome.
Pleasure to meet you.
Yes. Je m'appelle Ruby.
Okay. Hello, Ruby.
That was like the one French thing that I know. Thank you so much for making the time to come on.
You can tell that JF is right off the bat. It's like, oh god, I gotta deal with these people. Fuck my life. Why am I doing this? But he's like, why am I doing this with my goddamn life?
My audience is really excited about it. And I'm curious, just what is your life like these days? What is a day in the life of JF looking like?
Well, I have a very.
I realized she has like a small little thing of Friedrich Nietzsche, the gay sign or the joyful wisdom, which is the other name for that particular book. That she got into reading it. Personally, reading that book, I felt that it was very pretentious coming from Nietzsche, but his poetry were, in my honest opinion, very enjoyable, which is very funny coming from me.
Village life, having had success in my early career on YouTube. I made a lot of money, enough savings to live for the rest of my life with my book. So my life every day is to make a show on Rumble these days. Continue.
Oh, he's in Rumble. That's what I was wondering.
I was one of the first live streamers, and I'm happy to be with someone who was there back in the days. Who was one of the OGs.
How did that be so long ago? It's so long ago. How are we so old, dude? It just happened. Everyone's old.
Because there's so many people who flocked to this business late and who now do big numbers, but in a very artificial market. So I continue my legacy, continue perhaps the writing of my second book, but most importantly, I'm a dad and I enjoy every day of my life as a caretaker for children and taking care of building the next generation and building a stable family.
What would your next book be about?
My next book will be The Moral Signal. So the first book was about the emergence of life, the revolutionary phenotype. The Moral Signal seeks to have a full theory of a biology of culture. So everything you see, like I was seeing in the show before I arrived, you were showing these monkeys interacting between one another. Why does that happen? Why do they yell at each other? Why does the woman has these huge boobs displayed as she films? Everything social must have a biological explanation to it, and I think I have the framework for it.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm very fascinated by the way that people behave online, and especially more than ever, I'm like really curious about Kick specifically because that's where a lot of people go. I'm dual streaming there now, but I've had like major concerns about like the ethics of it and it being connected to like gambling sites. Have you looked into that at all? Is that something you have concern about?
Yeah, I didn't consider streaming on Kick for the very same reasons. I don't think it's good to promote addictive behaviors. The reality is, even if I can enjoy a game of poker intellectually, but if I send 100 people to a poker site, they will all lose their money, literally. And so gambling is bad for you. So I may go to Kick if...
Yeah, that's a fair point that, you know, Kick has that stigma to it that is very much connected to a gambling, right? But at the same time, when you look at another place like say Twitch, which is also connected to things like cam girl, you know, which is worse, lust or greed, right? Do you want to? I mean, I guess you can say that lust is less worse than, let's say, losing all your money. But is it any better when you're like giving your money to half naked girls who like on the side sell their body to a bunch of other guys, right? I guess in the end, you have to pick your poison. Do you go to a site that is much more, gives you much more freedom, gives you a lot more of a way to talk to people, and a lot, you know, you don't have to deal with restrictions and restraint, but it is connected to a gambling site. On the other hand, do you go for the cam girl, for the gooning?
If it's the last place to speak freely, but right now, Rumble, Odyssey, they offer a better free speech platforms.
True. Rumble, it does seem to be once you get, because YouTube, I mean, I have a friend who literally all she did was painting figures like on her streams. Her entire channel was just like nuked because she went up against Keemstar, who's like a highly demonic and unethical person, in my opinion. But yeah, so it's.
You can tell that Jay was like, like, what the fuck am I dealing with? He's already like regretting his life decision to be on here. He's like, what the fuck am I doing? I could be doing something else.
Scary how your platform can get taken away. When did that happen for you on YouTube? What was your time span that you?
Well, there was never really a ban. It just started that YouTube started their TOS, of their policy of shadow banning, and they were taking one episode at a time off from my channel, and they were slowly just putting the channel down through shadow banning and demonetizing sometimes. So it was in the era 2019 to 2022. Parallelly, my Twitter account getting banned. So back then, the freedom that we initially had in the initial YouTube community totally disappeared from the internet and was almost taken away forever. And thankfully, Elon Musk came back, and now we have Twitter. Now we have alternatives fighting back. But it seems that YouTube decided to continue the way of the normies. And it's a very sad thing, because it used to be a place for friendship and intellectual interaction that were genuine, that were much better than what the mainstream can provide. And personally, I'm addicted to it for life. I will always, even if they deny it now, and even if you can't have a YouTube channel if you're controversial, I will continue producing the content that I would have produced if I had a YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel similar, kind of just like very passionate and like you could say addicted to it, because it's addictive to instantly be able to connect and interact with people all over the world, any opinion, like, oh, you can look up anything, respond to anything, make a video about whatever. But the platform, it's definitely changed since like
and there's his audio issue.
We have
I mean, yes. YouTube has changed completely since, I want to say, the early 2000s. I remember back in the day, in the early 2000s, you could literally get away with a lot of things. I mean, at one point, Alex Jones was probably one of the biggest thing on YouTube for a long time. People remember the days of when Alex Jones was still allowed to be on YouTube. Now, mind you, the reason why Alex Jones got kicked out wasn't because of particularly of YouTube, but it was mostly due to had to do mostly relating to the Sandy Hook shooting, with what ultimately got his channel nuke from the earth, right? Completely nuke from the earth. And the lawsuit that eventually happened after that as well. Now, there were other factors that led to Alex Jones, and I wouldn't be surprised if YouTube has been for the longest time trying to take down Alex Jones, but they found their excuse with the Sandy Hook stuff.
Lost Ruby. How are you doing, people of the regular chat? Hopefully Ruby will reconnect. Okay, she is back.
Sorry about that. You know, I'm thinking of upgrading to Starlink. You know, my internet is kind of ass.
You need fiber optics. That's it.
Fiber optics, but I do like on the go streaming. Like I'm planning a trip in a couple weeks, and so it's like I've heard Starlink is good. Like if you're, you know, on the go.
You're going to South Carolina?
I'm just going to visit another YouTuber, and it's just going to be like a little content vacation. So you say you're living off of the like funds and stuff that you made earlier in your career.
Breaking news! Apparently, Destiny's Son, the streamer's Destiny's Son, said the Mr. Mustache Man was a great man. Apparently, that's happening, and there's actually a full-on interview of somebody actually interviewing Destiny's Son. We may have to watch that later. Fuck the door. We're gonna probably go see that later, because that actually sounds very interesting.
Well, actually, I'm making still a very good salary just streaming and with super chats. So I'm more than maintaining myself. But yeah, you know, back in those days, we were paid in Bitcoin very often by our audience, and Bitcoin has appreciated very much.
Yeah, I forgot it. For many people are not aware of it, a lot of like right wingers who were kicked off of YouTube or other streaming server, like I believe Nick Fuente is a good example. Nick Fuente at one point got a crap ton of Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum, to the point where at that time they had the FBI, if I remember carefully, I believe if with the FBI or somebody else had to get involved because the amount of Bitcoin that was moving from one place to another. I don't remember if it was Bitcoin or Ethereum, but it was a hefty amount. When I mean hefty, it was like up in the thousands, if anything else.
Pretty much since 2016. So that gives me a layer of safety that I can do what I want in my art rather than do what's needed. I don't have to be kneeling to gambling sponsors that will give me $1,000 for a stream.
Yeah, for me, I have a similar boundary there where that doesn't appeal to me at all, because I wouldn't want to live with myself doing that. Like, what else is there to live for except having some kind of positive impact and legacy? And actually, I wanted to ask you about that. Like, what what would you want your legacy to be, or like what's the impact you most want to have on society right now?
Well, my legacy will be that I had a theory called the theory of phenotypic revolutions. I published it so that everyone would know about it, but the world rejected me. The system that controls who speaks and who's respectable decided to go at me with hit pieces rather than an appreciation of what my scientific theory can give as an insight. And I want to prove down the line in 1,000 years, I think that what people will say about me is that I'm the proof that the Inquisition is not over, that the killing
Mm.
of greater minds is still the case in 2025, just like it was 400 years ago, just like it was 1,000 years ago, and that we are not an evolved society. We are not modern. We are not more intelligent. In fact, novelty still affects the lesser brains and still gets social rejection to whoever is born with it.
Do you identify as like a mentally healthy person, or
You can tell that Ruby didn't know how to respond to that question, and I think she moved on to the next question. Uh, I would actually agree with JF that we are not a civilized, no matter how much we try to advance, no matter how much we technologically grow, we are not an advanced society at all. We're just clearly are not. And we've seen it a number of times in our daily life. And just, you could say that we are entering some type of, let's say, idiocracy. Which I don't really think that's the case because idiocracy, it's sort of very much, in my opinion, very, I want to say a fallacy. I think idiocracy doesn't actually take the account of for a society like that, it still has some form of like let's say technological level that they have. They would still need to be much more smarter, right? Because you have a bunch of dumb idiots running around. You can't have you can't have the word of idiocracy. You really can't. If people were incredibly that dumb, that the way the movie trying to portray, the actual level of technology would be more akin to, if anything, more like pre-industrial societies, right? But even then, no. Now, when it's coming to the whole thing about the killing of brilliant mind, I think there is some degree of truth of that, but I think JF may disagree to what level. Do you Are you talking about the killing of minds who really want to go into the HPD, human anthropology, into the whole sphere of that, and actually be willing to talk about it and have a deeper discussion rather than just shutting it down? But I can't remember what his name was, but the guy named it was Smith something. I have to look it up. But he did a video where he read a book about how there's no such thing as a pseudoscience, right? That there's no such thing as a pseudoscience, and that what we consider as a pseudoscience is the attempt of an opposition force to suppress another form of science. And we kind of have seen that over the years, where something is quote unquote is considered a pseudoscience, but then later on, given that it gets more backing or gets more traction, just like how it is in real life, particularly in politics, when something gets more traction, it gets more backing. Sort of how in the 18 or sort of around the 1900s, no, 1900, 19th century, 1800s, nationalism was not actually liked by a lot of people. Nationalism was very much supported by a lot of the liberal middle class of Europe. The nobility, ironically enough, despised the nationalism that emerged from the French Revolution, right? And I believe anything is even more funny when you think about it. A lot of the more like socialistic communist movement of the you could say of the 18th century, 19th century, 1800 were probably a lot more nationalistic than the quote unquote nobility in a sense in that sense, right? Because the nobility was losing power in that period of time. Okay. So, like stuff like that is a good example how something gets portrayed as a negative, but once enough of the opposite force comes into power, you can say that's actually more akin to Hegelian dialects, right? Where eventually one takes the side or takes the use of another thing, and eventually through metamorphosis or whatever, it becomes it in the end. Because eventually a lot of the nobility became much more nationalistic than the liberal middle class of the 1900 of the 1800 19th century people, right? If that makes any sense, uh, cool. If it doesn't make any sense, my apologies. Maybe I should explain it a lot more better. But that is something true. I must say that a lot of right wingers want to claim and champion nationalism. There are actually some right wingers, right, particularly more of the traditional nobility of the monarchism, right, that actually are very anti-nationalistic. But it's even funny. It's actually extremely funny when you think about it that way.
Or like, do you feel like you are diverging? Because I definitely noticed. Not, I'm not saying you seem like mentally. I'm mentally ill. I'm very, very crazy. But like, you diverge from a lot of
You could say I was like, yeah, very crazy.
people, and like your viewpoints and in your passion. And I understand that to some degree. But I'm just curious if if that's something you've ever identified in yourself, or like, or if it's something you are.
Yeah, I consider that the world is in such a state of fall that everyone is sick in the head except me. And that I am the most mentally healthy person in the world. And in fact, tests reveal that I score close to 100% on mental health measures.
Wow.
So much so that some psychologists have accused me wrongfully of being a test tricker. That I'm trying to trick the test because
Really?
I'm a secret schizophrenic who invents false answers to these tests so that I can score 100. But no, I truly score 100 with honest responses to these challenges. And to me, I think that 95% of the world right now is mentally sick. And I think it's not going to get better. We are in a state of fall. And I think because there's not been enough selection, basically everything can exist. There is no more of a rule coming from the past generation saying, no, you won't go there. And I see this very much in your life. I think that, the missing of a father in your life because of his oxycodone addiction led you to have absolutely no structure. And I don't know to which extent you would agree, but
I think what Dave is trying to apply that when you look at a lot of older societies, right, due to natural selection, the environment, or even just the culture or the traditions of the people, there was a sense of eugenics, right? Now, I got to be careful when we talk about eugenics, especially on YouTube, because it's an extremely sensitive topic, right? Right. So essentially, you could say that older society, pre-industrial society, right? Especially due to being in a scarcity, right, where there wasn't enough resources to go around. There was land, but not enough hands to maintain it, right? Like not even hands to maintain it. There wasn't enough food because of there was crop failure, diseases of crop, animal that would destroy crop, natural disaster, right? That in a way was a form of, I think if you want to call it more like soft eugenics, right? Where it's through nature itself, it goes to the process of eliminating the weak. And we see that with animals too, right? If the animal is not capable of quickly adapting, it will fail and it will die off, right? The strongest of the fittest, right? Or the whatever it's called, right? Now, you could also say that there is also a high chance of luck involved, right? You either get lucky or don't get lucky, and that does play, in my honest opinion, does play a major role in how a animal or a people survive. But that's very small, right? But I think it's something to look at, even because you have to add an outside factor that can affect, right? And those older society, pre-industrial societies, right? Because once you get into even industrial society had this issue as well, right? But due to them going through another form of the agricultural revolution, later on in after the 1950s, right? If people don't remember that after the 1950s, there was a real concern. There was a real concern of famines, right? In I believe there was a report around World War II or a little bit after where there was a real concern of a famine because there wasn't enough food to be produced to go around until the Green Revolution happened, which was the result of using chemicals from World War One and World War II that were actually very effective in crop development and crop growth and crop yielding, right? Was more or less was why there was a major boom of a population throughout Western, which helped a lot in Western countries and some communist country really expand and have a major population boom. We also would see this later on in China after their multiple failed attempt by Mao Zedong. Though without getting too much heat from this one, I do have a hot take. Regardless of how people feel about Mao Zedong is probably one of the very few people that were able to actually implement all their policies of what they wanted originally. I mean, even the most hardcore of the hardcore communists literally had to step in a number of times to tell them, hey, don't do this.
what
Oh, my bad.
you've been experiencing in life is way too much. You shouldn't have gone there.
Yeah, I definitely, I mean, part of the reason why I'm interested in kind of like fringe people is I myself have existed on the fringes. I've had various mental health issues and drug issues that totally derailed like my YouTube career when it was starting 5 years or so ago. And I came back to streaming and I found I've made a lot of progress in it in the last year, but I still have a long ways to go. So what would your advice be to be like a crazy bitch in her 30s who's on methadone and totally just whacked out?
My advice, and I've said it many times, I will say it again because it applies even more here. My advice is full insemination. That is, have your uterus filled with sperm at every second, all the time, always.
I don't think I should procreate. Like I've been torn on this, and maybe this is just a cope because I'm old and single. But like, I don't know if I should procreate. Like, I'm feeling kind of not optimistic about the future. I think we're in the end times, quite honestly. I think like once the AI super intelligence is just going to take over, I don't think humans are going to adapt to that very well. Do you feel like we're in the end time?
I do personally don't think AI will advance that far just for a number of reasons. First off, to even create intelligence or even how to create life, we still don't know the exact answer or even consciousness. Now, we do have some inkling or understanding of the maybe the component of the chemicals that may have created consciousness or even life in general. I wonder who that guess spot is. JF, talk about crowding tea. I did later on gave $5 because I really wanted to know how JF felt out of the whole Crowd and T situation. Really, really fast, Crowd and T tried to take down a bunch of people and failed so miserably that it was later on confirmed that he was a big ass degenerate. Yeah, you gotta look it up. It's a great time.
Now you're letting your brain make a decision that it shouldn't be making. Let me ask you this. The first time you...
It's funny how the JF straight up just ignored the rambling. Because you know that he... Something I've seen and learned when it's coming to just generally talking to people like this, whether it be both on the left and the right, they just do not care. They don't care about conspiracy. They don't simply care about super intelligence. Because at the end of the day, what they care more about is how can I say it? Much more material things, right? About genetic or the economy, or whether or not worker right. They care more about that rather than the actual super AI computer. Because at the end of the day, I don't think AI is actually going to evolve. There's actually a great video from a guy named Serb Curb that I really, really like, who goes into the... Actually, we're going to take a... I don't know if you guys want to. We can take a bit of a detour to that particular video I'm talking about right now, where he goes into depth that rather than AI taking over, what we're going to see is sort of a symbiotic relationship where because AI don't need to eat. They don't require to sleep, eat, or shit, right? Or even piss. But they do require a source of energy. Sort of similar how... And then another thing he mentioned was that like AI, think of AI like a bee or another animal. There's a certain niche that they must fill in, right? There's no such thing as voids in reality, right? Voids do not exist. There's no such thing as vacuums. Let's take a detour because I feel like we'll get back into that kind of stuff. We'll obviously get back to this, but I always enjoy a bit of a detour when we're talking about this. So the video called the
endless ounces of ink.
So there's a video called The Ecology of Sentient AI. The fellow named Serb Curb is a YouTuber that I very much enjoy and somebody that I would like to one day have on this channel. It's less of an interview, but just a conversation and poke his brain. I hope one day he watches this video. Hey Serb, if you're listening to this, it would be really nice to have you on. I would also like to have his buddy Arjun, because I have been a very big fan of Arjun over the years. Heavily influenced my life and influenced my view on things like politics and real politics. Even to the point, I believe he actually at one point shared one of my videos with his, funny enough, relating to Destiny's Son. Let's watch this video real fast, which is again called if you want to know the title and the YouTube channel is Serb Curb. This is the Ecology of Sentient AI, where he goes in actually in very good detail, explaining that rather than AI coming in and wiping out humanity, it's going to be more of something different, a lot more nuanced.
Endless ounces of ink has been spilled debating the feasibility of AI actually attaining some kind of real intelligence. And just as much ink has been spilled talking about such an AI becoming more intelligent than its human creators. I doubt that either of these will ever happen. That is because AI really at the end of the day is a chain of if-then loops, and it is not an integrated whole which is self-sustaining in its purpose or its teleology. AI does not live for itself. Rather, it is a tool created by humans to serve a purpose for us. Regardless of its shortcomings, let us grant for a minute that AI somehow broke free of its design and it had an intelligence explosion. An intelligence explosion is when an AI, unfeathered by the programmer's safeguards, is able to improve itself repeatedly into a runaway growth of intelligence. Such a runaway growth would lead to a radically intelligent super AI or supercomputer, which would be able to outthink not only man, a man that is, but all men unified together as a whole. The idea then is that AI would be able to control the fate of man as a species and would be far greater than men as a category. People fear such an outcome and think that such an AI would then seek the destruction of all of humanity in order to protect itself from its closest competition. Though, I myself deeply doubt that a super intelligent AI would seek to wipe out all humans. And I don't think it's because that the intelligence that the AI would have would somehow put it morally above doing so. Human beings find it perfectly moral to wipe out a species which is an existential threat to it. We categorically target viruses.
That is very true. That is 100% true. When it comes down to it, humanity has a track record of extermination of other creatures, right? In Europe, we had the dire wolf as a good example of an animal that was a big threat for a very long time, to the point, or not the dire wolf, the European wolf, can't think of the actual name, but the really big threat to the point where we went on a path of extermination, right? You can look at all records of Europeans of talking about that, right? And we've seen it with other species, especially if you want to even include that to like bacteria, right? Polio, or even that we've done a good job in containing X thing, right? I think with something like AI, their AI may see human as a threat in the same level that we see things like, on the same level that we may see. Oh, sorry. At the same level that we may see like other stuff. Now, I'm not sure how true that is, but hey, it could happen.
Bacteria and fungus, which threaten us as diseases as a regular course of action. And it's true that killing a bacteria or a fungus is much more abstract than wiping out animals and plants because of the size of bacteria or viruses. I find it difficult to imagine human beings as a whole trying to maintain parasites or predators which are exclusively targeting them as part of their nature. Indeed, the fossil record points to human beings wiping out megafauna and similar species to it within the relatively recent past. Keep in mind, though, that while bacteria is abstract to us, would human beings not be more, if not equally abstract than AI to AI? Because think about it, an AI is even more radically different to humans than humans are to bacteria. Bacteria and humans are natural life forms which are made of similar components, while a living computer would be made of radically different components. It appears that the megafauna that went extinct in the Ice Age probably were very dangerous for us to interact with, and megafauna predators may have been outright hunting us as their food. So killing them.
There is a lot of cases where at one point, I believe a good example is the cave bear, right, in Europe. Cave bears were a real big threat to early humans, to the point of, I believe there was actually a genuine fear. I believe a lot of like bones and skeletons of cavemen, right, were, their death were caused by cave bears, since they were massive animals, right, much massive to relatively to most bear now that we see, and they were much more highly aggressive and highly territorial. There was also other predators of similar caliber, like other like lions and tigers, right? Particularly, there were different groups of lions, different groups of wolves within Europe that were very dangerous to early man. Africa had a lot of example of dangerous, not even megafauna, but just predator of that same level, like lions and tigers, right? And snakes as well. Particularly, our biggest threat to one of the biggest threats to humanity, far from, let's say, reptilians like snakes, or other mammals like tigers and like So basically anything that was related to the feline family and the canine family, and other things like bears that were as too were a major threat to people. Now I think AI may not see us of the same level because AI has a very different way of living. They don't require the same resources as us on a very base level, right? A bear and a human will compete for fish because they both need fish to survive, and their diet require that. Um, it's one of the main reasons why European wolves were hunted to extinction, right? Was because the wolves were hunting down things like cattle, so like sheep, cows, pigs, and other similar beasts of burdens, because those were easy sources for the wolves to hunt. And if they weren't hunting those, they were hunting humans. It's one of the main reasons why a lot of our dog species that we have were specifically designed to hunt wolves. There's a lot of species of dog, maybe smaller than the European wolf, but in larger number, we're able to take them down, right? Coyotes, right? In like let's say coyotes in America, right? There are species of dog in America, right? American bred dog that were designed specifically to hunt down coyotes. Now, a dog that was hunt down or meant to hunt down, let's say bears or fight bears or hunt down bears or hunt down tigers or hunt down wolves are a lot more stronger comparable. Like those animals, those predatory animals are much more stronger than let's say coyotes, but coyotes always hunt in number. That's why a lot of coyotes, have a track record of eating pets.
Them was ultimately advantageous for human flourishing. When it comes to the distinction of the Neanderthal, Homo floresiensis, and Homo erectus and other hominids, the reasoning for their extinction is crystal clear. They competed with us, that is, Homo sapiens sapiens, for the same ecological niche. When two or more species compete for the same ecological niche, all gloves are off. One species must push out all the others and gain control of that niche. That is known as the competitive exclusion principle. The species who has the smallest advantage over the other will outcompete that other in the long term and become the sole owner of that ecological niche. The other species of hominids no longer exist because...
That's a good point. We've seen it before. There are animals that do push out animals for ecological niche. If not even that, just straight up dominant, right? In the case of South Florida, right, within the Gulf of America, not the Gulf of Mexico, but in the Gulf of America, what do they call? Lionfish are a big threat. There is no natural predators in the America to hunt down those animals. In the case of hippos, or another instance of there's no natural predators in America that can hunt down hippos. There just isn't. And given that humans are very dominant, both not simply in I would say humans are dominant in both numbers and just in general, right? One human, right? One human, even if he's not the best skill, let's say in a ball and arrow, or even in another instance a gun, can still take down multiple hordes of animal. And we've seen that.
Modern humans...
I mean, if you think about it, when you go down to Texas, you can literally go on a helicopter and shoot a machine gun on a helicopter to hunt down a bunch of boars. So that's a good example there and then.
Outcompeted them. Possibly, we even exterminated them purposefully. Indeed, human beings and our closest living relatives, chimpanzees, practice intra-species warfare is a common component or part of our behavior. Because human beings engage in warfare as a matter of fact and a matter of behavior, I imagine that a war of extermination is not only rational, but an absolute necessity for two competing sentient races. If two races were to meet in space, I expect that their meeting would make the Spanish landings in the New World seem gentle by comparison. They would share the same ecological niche and no doubt attempt to exterminate each other as they try to expand into newly available territory. The species with the slightest edge...
I mean, in a way, we've seen that over the years through human conquest and human wars, right? Intentional or not, that one species of humans, right, needs to expand and conquer, either through breeding them out or interbreeding with them, or straight up just war. And through that war, you're able to submit your opposition to your side. Kind of saw that with the Prussians and Germans, the Han Chinese, The Aztecs are a good example in Mesoamerica, where the Aztecs were notoriously well known for their flower wars. If you're not aware what a flower war is, it was sort of a flimsy excuse for the Aztecs to go to war with other neighborly. Oh my god, I can't even speak. Other tribes around them. By using the flower war excuse, that's how they were able to gain massive amount of sacrifices. It's something that people don't talk about or are very aware of. That a lot of Mesoamerican groups, with particularly the Aztecs, were notoriously known for wiping them out, not really wiping them out, but in a weird way of sort of this weird program of war coming in, letting them repopulate, going to war with another tribe, and just repeating that. It's why when the Spaniards came in, so many natives sided with them in massive droves.
In the long term, would win. The losing species would be forced to either change its niche or be exterminated outright. The example of the competitive exclusion principle, which best comes to mind, is the gray squirrel and the red squirrel in Britain. The red squirrel is a native squirrel to the island, and the gray squirrel is an invasive species. And this is a really good example because the red squirrel, being native to the island, you think that it would be have a greater home field advantage, but that's not true. The gray squirrel is winning out because it has slightly better adapted for its environment because it's able to eat more food. The competition in most cases is non-violent. It's just the slow pushing out of one species by the other. In the case of humans and the hominids, which...
I think I'm going to move back to JF real fast. Let's break this up.
Add some heroin injected into your veins. Did you think that way? Did you think, oh, well, I don't think I should be doing this because...
Not especially. I was like an extremely anxious kid, and I idolized people like Kurt Cobain, Courtney Love, Sid Vicious. I really, from a young age, wanted that like live fast, die young lifestyle. But then my brain finished developing in my mid-20s, and I'm like, oh shit, like, damn, I went off the rails,
But forget about the inspirations and the long-term reasons why you ended up there. I'm talking about the moment. The moment where you got your first dose of this or that. You didn't think twice. You didn't think, oh, well, will AI take over the world and therefore it's useless for me to be drugged up? You just did it. You jumped into it like it was a universe of discovery, like you were at least jumping into the hole, right?
Yeah, that's more accurate.
Do
do
this with baby making, let me tell you, and you'll be fixed in ways that you can't even understand right now.
You need to breed, Ruby. You need to breed. You need to breed, Ruby. That's your issue, Ruby. You need to get fucked. Just get fucked. I need to stop yelling. Fuck, Ruby. Just get fucked. Ruby, you just don't understand. You need to breed. JF is telling you that is a bad still image. That is just that doesn't help my case. You gotta fuck, Ruby. Ruby, you don't understand. You need to fuck. You need to get babied. Maybe a baby okay, let's be real. Whether or not a baby can actually help Ruby or not, that's really up in the air. I think what JF is trying to say is that if by having a child, that child will help you straighten your life. Though I don't necessarily disagree with JF. The problem is that I met a lot of women who have kids and they're not the best mother, or they still make the same amount of mistakes as before. If anything, they're probably worser now. Right, just from my own experience. But this isn't here or now. So let's move on. You gotta fuck, Ruby!
In ways that no medication will ever fix you. Because
evolution... I mean, but what if I have a bunch of kids? Like, I live in like an attic, I don't know. I tend to rise to the occasion, but I don't know. But do you feel optimistic about the future, and that's why you want to have like lots and lots of babies?
I feel that we are in a war, and yes, I am optimistic in that war because I know that ultimately sexual reproduction is the best model for humans. We will either completely disappear and be replaced by something that is non-sexual, like an AI deciding your genes in the next generation, but we will be at war with this thing for millions of years. And I believe we can win the war. We need decision, we need decisiveness, we need an understanding of the value of sex.
I think he's trying to refer that, yeah, I could be really wrong, but I think what JF is trying to get at is that sex is a tool. It's a power to overcome the world and the troubles of the world, the flaws, which is very weird when you think about it, especially, coming from me, who's who's very very involved within the religious right sometime, that is a, by having kids that will help us overcome the world, and through it due to having kids, that's how we can beat the world. In a way, I do agree. Having kids is the future. The future is not influencers who live in their corporate overlords corporate office where they just do nothing but read emails and read complaints and tell you good vibes. The world is not going to be conquered by, a bunch of boomers, right? The world is not going to be conquered by the schizophrenics on the internet or people like me. The world will be conquered by the individual who can have kids. By having kids, that is how you're able to continue your legacy and your ideology, right? Is why things like Christianity, Islam, right, particularly are very, very focused in family and having kids. A lot of even neo-paganism movement I've seen adopt that as well as a central of having kids, right? Now, in the term of Christianity, there may be differences in denomination. Let's say in Catholicism and Orthodoxy, you do have the priest, the nun, but even among that, right, even among them, they still emphasize having kids. A lot of nuns and monks I met, a lot of the time they will either tell you that if you're not one of the religious life or one to devote themselves truly to God or Christ, you should not be part of the order, but rather focus on having a family and a kid. And JF is 100% correct when he's saying that. Hey, look, this is continue.
Sex and how great, how lucky we are to have had the sexual binary to be in our species, and just how much of our phenotypes rely on the fact that we are sexual beings. The difference between a sexual being and not a sexual being in biology is the difference between everything you know about life: lions, humans, giraffes, rhinoceros, frogs, salamanders, fish. All of these are sexual beings. If you want to go to the first non-sexual being, you have to go back to bacteria. So sex ultimately is responsible for the walking forward of life into a world of complexity, beauty, and even comedy and human language. You ultimately rely on the fact that we had to charm a greater being to pass into the next generation. So yes, I think you should make babies. Yes, I think you should take the side of DNA-based sexual life in this war. And I think your life would have been even better if you had started earlier. Now you say, okay, you're not in an ideal scenario. I'm sure there is a guy out there with a house ready to take you in and to make you 5 babies, which you still can do. So I would go for this. Doesn't matter that you're in an attic now. Your job as a woman is not to own a whole house or to produce on the free market. But you can totally give yourself to the project of finding a man of quality. You've had your whole life to see what males of non-quality look like and what it looks like to live with them. Because I've seen your life on your YouTube channel. You seem to have been jumping around with roommates, drugged up, alcoholics of all
I'm not
kinds.
drugged up. I'm just manic. I'm not.
No, but the people who surrounded you were drugged up all the
Oh
time.
yeah.
So you need to find a model. It's harder for someone like you who's not had a solid male model in her life, but you know objectively what it is that you need. A guy with sense, a guy with wealth, a guy with resources, and most importantly, a guy who will just take you by the arm and say, that's where we're going, and I don't care what you say. You can yell, you can ask for your extra dose of methadone, you're not getting it.
I think I follow what you're saying. Like sex, it very much is. It's like so fundamental in ways we can't comprehend. Like I've been reading more like Jung about like the collective unconscious and getting more into spirituality. And I'm curious, do you have a connection?
You can tell that JF does not give a shit about that, right? JF is more focused on the biology of human and the survival through sex. That's what JF cares. You can tell JF does not give a shit about shit like that.
To God, are you atheist or religious? I'm curious.
I'm currently with a girlfriend who is a radical Christian who truly believes in God. I've always been an atheist, and I'm still an atheist. However, she makes a beautiful case for certain ideas of the Bible that I had never considered in that way. But I'm still very much not believing that we have a God or that Jesus Christ has been sent from outside of the universe by a supernatural entity.
And do you think that society and people probably need religion in some degree? And it's like there's a religious like instinct and inclination? Because I've thought that like even if I don't, like, I still struggle with belief mentally, but like I feel like a spiritual benefit, even just from the practices and the reading, the meditation and prayer is just like positive, like focusing. But I do think a lot of people, they really do need something to latch onto to like mimic in that way. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think religion has many truthful moral roles in our development, and I don't think it's absolutely needed in the first principle way. I think you could, in theory, have all of the right behaviors without religion, but I think it would be very hard. Religion makes it much more easy because it packages all of those useful memes. Ultimately, what religion is a breeding machine, and it's a software that you can upload to your brain that just improves your chance of breeding and reduces your chance of being gay.
He's not wrong. What I just said a couple minutes ago when we compare, let's say, Islam and Christianity was the heavy focus on reproduction. There's a heavy focus in reproduction in both Christianity and Islam, in some extent, with some, not every neo-pagan, but any neo-pagan that's connected to more right wing, but that's more due to those right wing things than paganism itself.
Now, from this perspective, it does well. I think it's good for low IQ people because they need some sort of guide. It's good for people who don't have a kind of a strong behavioral sense for themselves, which I happen to have. I have a very strong behavioral moral code of my own. I don't need very much religion to act good in society. But yeah, I think it's useful for a lot of people.
How would you describe your moral code? Because I also think that you can have like a moral code that's coherent without religion. But it does take a lot more thought to be put into it. So I'm curious,
So I would say I'm pretty much like Gandalf, the Grey in Lord of the Rings. My moral code is grounded in non-aggression, non-intervention, and witnessing the beauty of the world as you let it unpack for it.
Though I understand where he's coming from, I do disagree that you do need some form of aggression when you're dealing with any opposition force that is a threat to you, especially when you're talking about, let's say, reproduction, right? If there's a force that is a threat to your people and is not letting your people reproduce, or in other cases, right, let's say abortion is sort of a threat, right? And I think JF may agree, though I think JF may have a very different take on that subject.
Itself, without intervention. You know, there's all sorts of things that Gandalf does in Lord of the Rings where he lets Gollum be. He says, I don't know, but Gollum seems evil, but maybe he's going to be good at some point. And I'm very much like this, laissez-faire, non-intervention, and most importantly, instead of trying to constantly re-engineer and change the world, like many modern people deceive themselves into doing, I like to look at the world and find what's great, what's so great about it to begin with. Because trying to improve from here to there, we've seen what it does. It does social workers, it does state interventionism, it worsens people's mental health, it creates public schools with all sorts of damage, of mental damage that we only need to measure later in society. And I'm like, what if we just had let the system be? What if there wasn't such an effort to fix people? Perhaps they would fix themselves better.
Yeah, I mean, definitely things aren't working broadly. People are lonely. That could connect to the sex thing too. People in the younger generations are having less sex, less procreation, less family. And for me, also part of my thing was I was very rigid, very feminist, and never, ever, ever crossed my mind to want kids or be a mom, you know, even though I had great parents, you know, I just didn't want to, I don't know, I just didn't, I was nihilistic. I was very nihilistic from a young age. And, but I do think it's a huge issue, the lack of connection. And now we're going to have a reproduction crisis where no one's going to be around to take care of the older people. Do you see that as being like an issue?
Personally, I don't think it's an issue. I think we're just holding old people to live way too old. I think we should accept death earlier, and we should stop fighting against entropy. We're due to die once we have accomplished our reproductive life and we have cared for our children.
I disagree with that. Mostly because you could submit to life that believe like a symbol, like maybe like fatalism. But I do disagree that you need to be willing to fight. For you to survive, for the species to survive, you must fight, even against the odd, against entropy. I would say that sometimes JF comes off very nihilistic, even though he's very much, like, how can I say, very much focused on the whole breeding and all that shit. You have to fight. Everybody has to fight against entropy, even if it's just a full errand. Fighting to the very end is something innately human.
Children up to adulthood, we really don't serve only a secondary role. Maybe babysit the grandkids, but we shouldn't hang on to life the way boomers do.
Yeah, I can see that. A lot of like super late in life, it gets pretty, you know, depressing, and you're just in pain all the time. Distinction wants a rap battle. Maybe at the end. I am a really good freestyler. I have a lot of hidden talents. But I'm curious, do you ever think it's okay, like, do you believe in physically disciplining women if they're acting out?
No, I believe in self-defense. That is the only violence that I believe in. Um, Woman acting out is an issue. I mean, it's been an issue in my life because there's so many deluded women out there. They will attack you with falsehoods. They will yell at you with things you haven't done. And so, how do we manage this? In my view, we need a societal structure rather than we need a societal structure that gives enough power into the hands of men so that whatever the woman spouts doesn't matter. But we're not in that world. We're in a world where whatever the woman spouts gets listened by some social worker, by some judge, by some family court, and ends up hurting male's life. This needs to be fixed. We need to reduce the degree of belief we put in a woman's words.
Do you think you could have maybe like a biased perspective because you do tend to date like women who are kind of neurodivergent? Do you think maybe that gives you, because it's like if you go for crazy bitches or people who are like very unconventional, of course, a lot of crazy things are going to happen. You might end up in those like, custody or whatever kind of instant battles.
So do I?
And of course, speaking of physical correction of women, we got the wife beater himself, Benjamin Thor. Ruby, ask him, oh God. Ruby, ask him.
Let's leave this question aside. But I want to come back to something you say because so many people say this without any evidence. So I will ask you to defend that claim. So you say I go out with neurodivergent women. Do you think I go out with neurodivergent women more than average? Or do you think, if you were to look at the 200 women I've been with, how many of those 200 women do you know about?
200?
I've been with
Well,
200
I guess I don't
women.
know about a lot of them, but I know about the major relationships
so see,
that there's
you hear about
around.
three. You heard about 3 or 4 of them. Why do you hear about them? Because they're neurodivergent.
That's probably a whole ton of Canadian, Quebec, and baby mamas.
Because they're making a lot of extreme noise. They're making more publicity for themselves than the normal ones I was with. But in the end, I don't believe I'm especially targeting neurodivergent women. In the end, if you look at my career, my reproductive career, I've been with women. Some of them have PhDs. Some of them are very stable emotionally, but some of them are unstable. And those are the ones you hear about. Not surprising, but let's be clear here. It's not a good empirical method to be taking woman noise and to be acquiring it as data.
I mean, it's just looking at like various court documents. It's giving me this impression, and there's narratives around it. That's why I'm asking you, is for the clarity. I'm curious. And then obviously with Mama JF, whenever she was on screen, she acted kind of like eccentric. And I was watching a video, and it was saying that people said she acted very different, like off stream. What was she like behind the scenes?
So first, you mentioned the court documents. Well, court documents come from my ex who wanted to secure custody of our children for herself, and so she lied about me. So whatever is in those court documents, I have already denied, and I deny it again. It doesn't become true because it gets published on the internet or because you have a copy of it and you reread it 2 years or 5 years later. Those are lies. They are just lies. Now, the behavior of Mama JF, the idea that Mama JF was different on stream versus in real life. Definitely she was different, like anyone would be. I'm sure you are not in this stream in the way you usually are if you're in a party or you're drinking beer with your friends. Now, was she different in a radical fashion? Not so much. Mama JF has shown delusions publicly before, and she showed them on live streams against.
I'm going to speed this up because a lot of it is just fluff. And my dog is acting up.
My will, and delusions she also had in the private life. So Mama JF was delusional both publicly and privately. So I don't see the claim that she was different. Now, the claim that she was different actually comes from neighbors having interacted with her, but having interacted with her for 30 seconds or 1 minute. Now, if you interact with a delusional person for 1 minute, you're not going to share their most inner hallucinations. I'm sure you know that, having had psychosis yourself, maybe drug-induced in your case, but it takes a lot of depth. Yes,
technically
withdrawal-induced.
It was withdrawal related, okay?
Okay. Well, it takes a lot of depth before someone who's hallucinating or having psychosis will reveal the inner structure of her thought. And so to those people who have seen the social face of Mama JF, be careful. It was not all there was.
Yeah, I mean, learning about her, she just seemed like an interesting character, and I was surprised to find out that her dad was a physicist. And I was also surprised that I could not find anything of her family, like trying to help find her or like any statements from them. And I was like, what the heck? Like, wouldn't they be looking for her? Or like, was there a reason? Was she disconnected or alienated from her family?
Mama JF herself had some degree of hostility toward anyone she was interacting with. So the way these women work is often they have their current guy, and then everyone before are abusers and evil people, and they leave everyone behind. And eventually, even if you're that guy for a moment that they respect and trust, eventually you become part of the cone of these people are evil against me. A psychotic person is always projecting herself into the future and always burning all of the bridges behind. Now, that doesn't mean that her parents were not caring for her and not trying to find her. In fact, they did participate to the police work. It's just that they've decided to do it privately. They're not public people, so they don't have to defend on YouTube. I have to because I'm a public person, but they want to live a private life, and they're helping in the way they can. But also, we're faced with someone who has chosen. Mama JF is a drifter who has chosen to go out there without documents, without tracing apparatus, without cell phones, without any way for us to help find her. So you have to respect this at some point. And her parents, just like me, we understand what kind of mind she has, and we understand that she wouldn't like it if we were to try to find her.
I mean, some people are like that, and I did see there was evidence of her like going up and out just on trips in other scenarios. So that is plausible. She did have a character that was really vibrant, eccentric, and inclined towards like kind of trips and stuff. So I can see that. My concern would be just like, I don't know, if my husband and like father of my kids was like, yo, I want to run out into the woods and just like live there. I don't know if I would personally feel comfortable with it. Do you understand why people think that's like kind of crazy?
No, I mean, I don't feel comfortable with it, which is why the first drift of Mama JF was years before her actual disappearance. And
What's up, Ozzy? How you doing, man? We're here watching the JF Ruby interview. Mostly right now they're getting into, I believe, the psychology of Mama JF and what kind of person she was she similar as she was on stream and in her private life?
Mama JF went out, and there's traces of this on the internet, and she has described it herself. Mama JF went out, broke our family, went to chill and take drugs in the downtown Montreal. And I convinced her to come back. And I will never regret this decision that I've done because I've had a few more years with Mama JF, and we had kids. We had kids during those years. So there are people today who live because I made this kind of doubling down, trying to convince Mama JF to come back. Now, that time I succeeded. The second time she went and drifted, she took all of the means so that I could never contact her again. In fact, she disappeared a little too well to the police taste.
Yeah, I mean, we're just coming up on the 2-year anniversary, so it's a remarkable story. I could see it being turned into like a movie or something between like your life has taken so many wild twists and turns. And
yeah, this is JF. This is the dude that got rid of his wife, quote unquote, got rid of his wife. He's trying to make the case that Mama JF had a tendency to go off. From what I've seen and from what other people I read on this situation, it does actually check out. I don't know. The JF situation is hard to talk about because there is a lot of, I wouldn't say misinformation, just people who have their own agendas of just trying to gun towards them. If anything, I would say that for the most part, I think Ruby did a good job in the interview. Because I think rather than kind of going hard or trying to make a mockery of him, or rather than trying to do like what other people, let's say like the Kino Casino or other people where they are obviously having their own agendas, right? You gotta remember, Andy Worski used to work with JF, so he has his own reason. I think PPP probably would not care one bit, but I have a feeling that Andy Worski has still a grudge against JF, especially when they split.
And then like this crazy disappearance too, and yeah, I understand why people are suspicious. And is there anything you think people get like especially wrong about like you or like things that happened like?
Oh, they get everything wrong. They get wrong the idea that Mama JF wanted to go voluntarily. There's like 70% of the people I interact with on the internet, they don't even accept this. They think, oh, that's JF's explanation. But hey, there are records of this. There are records of Mama JF doing this before and redoing it again in the last time she disappeared. So it's like, not only can it happen, it had happened many times before. She has done it not only to me, she has done it to people she knew before and to her own family. So there's this that people get wrong. What people get wrong is the level of strategy I would have been able to kill Mama JF while she was in a separate province where the only thing that connects Prince Edward Island, where we lived, the only thing that connects this little island of Canada to the rest of Canada is a single bridge, the Confederation Bridge. And people somehow think that I was able to pass this bridge, which is...
I remember Ruby from Low Carolina. Is she just doing her own thing now? Yeah, Ruby's been doing her own thing for a while. Again, this is from today's stream. She's been doing her own stuff for a while. Go check her out. She has been making a push to connect with Becky in the BBU as a sort of like adjacent group where I scratched your back, She scratched my back. Like the other night, for instance, she redirected to Dick Gemini. With, let's be fair, let's be very real. I think it's a smart move on her end. Right? Many people may or may not agree with me when I say that. But in terms of what Ruby wants to do and what Ruby is trying to aim for, it is a smart move to redirect to people that are within that same line of thinking. Whether or not they truly believe in that same line of thinking and it's more of a grift on their end and you are the one that actually believe it, up in the air. Up in the air to be discussed.
Lined up with cameras. They literally take a picture of your face as you enter with your car onto Prince Edward Island. They think that somehow I was able to leave this island, kill Mama JF, run back to the island, hide Mama JF in some woods somewhere. They don't actually measure the intensity of what their hypothesis requires. I would be an evil genius if I had pulled this against the Canadian police forces.
So are they currently, has there been any updates from the Canadian police on it? Are people presuming she's passed? I don't want to be insensitive.
No, I mean, there's no presumption and there's no update. So the last update is that she was seen 2 days after I dropped her off at the gas station. She was seen in another province, so she had done about 5 hours worth of road and was living on the streets, on Albert Street in Moncton, New Brunswick. That is what we know. That is the last time she ever left a trace. But that very day, see, this is where it's fascinating to me. It's the last time she was seen by outsiders other than me. But it's also on that very day that she sent me a phone message, text message, saying, JF, I'm about to disappear forever. You have 30 minutes left. If you need something from me, if you want me to call the electricity company or whatever, we do it now because in 30 minutes, you'll never hear from me again. And so there was a voluntary aspect to her disappearance. Not only this, she had been reading.
I would believe it, but I would like to see some type of evident proof that that conversation did happen rather than you just saying it, because if you have some type of proof or some type of like alibi, it would actually help his case even more.
A book of Edward Snowden called Permanent Record, and she was starting to be alarmed that she was starting to understand the number of chips that are in a cell phone and the ones you have to get rid of to avoid detection. And she was also Googling about how can I be reborn? How can I completely change identity with a new birth certificate, that kind of stuff. So it seems that Mama JF, to me, the main hypothesis to me is that Mama JF is out there. She is neither named Mama JF nor Elora. She has completely changed identity. It's probably with some guy. I'm sure the guy is hooked on drugs, and I'm sure that they don't live a perfect life, but I'm sure she's...
This happened in Canada. I believe JF and Mama JF are Quebecian, the Canadian Quebecians.
Also, most likely fine. Now, there's a possibility that because it's a dangerous world, and Mama JF is way too trusting in this drug world, she probably embarked on truckers that she didn't know, and that could have been killers. So I think there's a chance she's dead. But there's a chance you're dead next week when you go to South Carolina. There's a chance I'm dead next week. But I don't think it's the main hypothesis that we should retain. I think she must be happy, secretly living, and that she has escaped the Matrix in some spectacular way. Or that's what I like to think.
Was she ever diagnosed with like schizophrenia or something? Because it sounds like, maybe was it some kind of paranoid delusion?
She definitely had paranoid delusions that I've observed. I will not comment on her medical record, but I think from my description of her thoughts, you can easily guess what kind of person she was and what kind of woman she was.
Interesting. Have you ever found yourself? I've always just been fascinated by like serial killers, like Ed Kemper, Ted Bundy, the Night Stalker, and these people just do like crazy like.
Hey, I'm not gonna stop people from believing. I kind of do think that he at least had a hand in the action in itself. Some regards. Join D-Doc stream, smelly. Smelly. What are they doing over there, milk cow? Probably say she is dead unless you know she is dead. That's a fair point. That is a very fair point. Whether or not he is dead or not, or whether or not she is. I mean, there is a lot of missing report cases of just people missing every year. I can't remember the exact statistic or the exact number, right? I'm trying to remember. I was just reading over junk stuff. Funny time, funny world we live in. He doesn't even seem very sad either. No. I mean, you can make the case that that he's a bit of a sociopath, psychotic and a sociopath. But I do have a take that may get me some shit, whether or not I believe in the take. It's one thing, but I think it's a take nevertheless. I think some people may like to hear. A couple of years ago, I remember there was a statistic about missing reports, right? And that a lot of the time, the people who are quote unquote missing reports, and to your best pale king TLs on the God, please, not today, milk cow, no, Canadian, please. Oh yeah, Canadian, please do suck ass. I believe the island he may be, what's it, Alberta. I know he's Quebecian. I don't know if he still was in the prov. I don't even know he lives in Canada anymore. I did hear he moved. I'll have to look that up real fast. I'm trying to remember everything offhand because I am a very. I'm kind of sobering down and I have caffeine in my blood. So it's Canadian way. Well, he's Quebecian. I'm pretty sure JF moved a long time ago, or he moved out of Quebec. I do remember him mentioning he did move out of Quebec. Trying to remember offhand. Either way, right now it doesn't really matter if he moved or not, because I heard he moved to the Netherlands or something, or he moved to Europe. I don't even know. Either way, it is what it is. But back to my point. I do remember hearing that there were statistics of missing reporting people. I don't remember where I first heard this. That a lot of the people who are missing, right, are usually are found after they're missing, right? Usually, a lot of the time, those missing reports are so old that a lot of the time those people are already found, and it takes a bit of time to obviously remove the missing reports, right? And a lot of the time, what a lot of missing reports are, a lot of people, what ends up happening is they just straight up just up and leave an area. Now nowadays, with the how interconnected we are, I was just stopping by. I'm passing out for work. Keep up the grind, brother. Yes, I will. Yes, I will. Trust me. Probably gonna only take a break from this. I feel like taking a small break from the JF stuff because it does take a lot of time. Not necessarily that it's boring. It's just, you know, but not that it's boring or anything. More like you have to sit there and really think about what he's saying. Now I am gonna move over, and we're gonna actually want somebody interviewing Destiny's son. Now that has to be quite, and it's just interesting if there's anything to watch.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. We are live once again. I'm here today with a very special guest. Here today with the son of the streamer by the name of Destiny. So welcome to the stream, brother. Hey, man. So I'm not even sure exactly where I'll get started. So are you an only child?
Yeah, kinda. I live with my mom, and
Okay.
she has a boyfriend. He has a son, so kinda not.
Oh boy.
Okay. So are your parents like split up then? Like your mom found like a new boyfriend or?
Yeah, kinda. Yeah.
Okay. Huh. So like how much have you like interacted? Obviously, fair bit with your father. Like, what's that been like having like Destiny as your dad?
Yeah, I interact with him. I'd say like daily. I message him on Discord, from like time to time, and he responds most of the time. And then also usually he'll visit me. I've started visiting him since like 2 summers ago. I started visiting him in Miami. So
Yeah. Got you. And bro, like your political views are very, very different from your dad.
yeah.
For example, you made a tweet saying Hitler had daddy issues too. So like, explain what you mean by that, brother.
You know, it was kind of a funny joke. And it was clever in my opinion, and it did what I wanted it to do. It made people mad.
Holy shit, he's, you know what? I know
Yeah, it's pretty,
I can't say
I
anything
mean,
because
you
the way
obviously
I
have a good
speak,
brain
but
for social media. I'm
holy
not sure if you got that from your
shit.
father, but just going through your Twitter here, I
Holy
can tell you
shit.
definitely,
At least I
definitely know how
try
to get
to
people talking,
speak
that's for sure.
properly, or try my best to,
Yo, if you still hear me,
you know, enunciate my words and pronounce things. Holy shit.
Yo.
Unless it's just a big
Yeah, I
troll.
can hear you. Sorry, I had to do something.
Okay, got you. So, like, what does your dad think about like all your social media and stuff? Because like your dad, I'm not sure if you know, but your dad is a pretty hardcore liberal, right?
Yeah,
So, what
yeah.
does he think about like? Because you're very much not that. So, what does he think about that?
He hates it, and it's really funny. he wanted me to delete my Twitter. But I decided to just redact all my tweets. He said that was good enough, so I redacted my tweets and then went back to saying the same stuff online.
Yeah. What made you like come to that like point of view, like politically? Like, what made you? Because obviously, like, being Destiny's son, right? You're gonna have like a lot of more like you would imagine you'd have a lot more like liberal ideologies being raised by somebody like Destiny. So, like, what point was it where you kind of like came into your own and formed like your own separate belief system?
It was kind of around a few months ago. I started talking to a lot more creators. I did finally convince my moderation team on NGG to start allowing creators to join the Discord. So I did that, and I started talking to them.
Oh, so he was speaking to the Nick Fuentes people. That is making a lot more sense now. That is making a lot of sense now.
And I kind of started doing more research again into stuff like the Holocaust and World War II, and leading up to World War II, stuff like that.
Holy
And I
shit.
came to the opinions, I'd say, very naturally.
Okay. So, are you a Groiper then?
Oh, no, but I agree with a lot of things they say.
All right, hell yeah, bro. Let's go. I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm like a Groiper really at all. I mean, bro, dude, that's kind of like the most toxic like community online. Like, are you sure like those are your guys?
Yeah, I like being mean to people online. It's fun. I like getting responses out of people. I like the attention. And I think they do make a lot of fair points that are overlooked because of predetermined beliefs about them because other things they say online.
Yeah. Is there any way you can like find a place to sit down so like you can get the full camera on you? Because it's kind of like
yeah,
kind of a little bit choppy.
yeah.
All right. So Destiny's son is hanging out with Groipers. All right. Hell yeah. Why did your here, I'll just give you a sec. Yo, what's up, Kingmaker? We got two Adams in the chat. Adam 1 and then all uppercase Adam. How you guys doing today? Guys, like and share the stream. Everybody hit the like button. We're just getting the boy. All right, there we go. W lighting. Let's go.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Hell yeah, bro. So I saw that your dad Destiny blocked you on Twitter, right? Why did you do that?
I actually don't know. He hasn't told me, and he doesn't seem to be planning on telling me why he did that. But I think it's funny. I assume it was something I said maybe.
Yeah. Like, are you saying like maybe he doesn't want to be like associated with you for some reason? Like his followers would be like, what the hell?
No, not that. I think it was.
Oh, this guy's cutting out. Yo, Destiny's son's got McDonald's Wi-Fi. Yo, guys, on the stream, did he cut out for you too? Because this guy fully just.
Not gonna lie, you would think being Destiny's son, you would have, you would at least get money or get money from child support, and that could at least help you. But holy shit, dude!
Froze. Destiny's stream has got McDonald's Wi-Fi. Who the f blocks their own son, bro? Groipers usually have a bad rep due to optics, but most of them are well thought out and friendly individuals behind the toxic facade. I mean, some of them are pretty chill, some of them are not so much. Yeah,
I think it depends on the Groipers. From my own experience interacting with Groipers in that whole general community, I do think that a lot of them are very autistic. I think a lot of people can agree with me with that one. But I also, given unless I don't like Nick Fuentes, I think that's why I don't really get into fights with them. But I'm not a big fan of them.
I think he's having connection issues, guys. Yeah, he just got booted out. He'll be back. Oh, he's already back.
Yeah.
Bro, your connection's cutting out a little bit, bro.
Oh yeah, my phone keeps turning off. That's.
Got you. So have you had any like arguments with your dad? Because like when you made that tweet, like it was like obviously like a joke tweet, but would you say that you have daddy issues with Destiny?
In the traditional sense, maybe no. In some way, yeah, I do. Of course, because he's not around. As much as other people's parents are. In some way, yeah, it was a genuine tweet. But it was mostly a joke.
Yeah. Would you say that your dad is like kind of like not spend as much time with you because he's been like so focused on streaming and like everything that he does online?
I don't really know. I do think that it did work out for him better when he decided to move away. It did help him better with the streaming, but I wouldn't say that was the motivation.
Yeah. Got you. Guys, what do you think? Somebody says your son, Destiny's son, is a smart guy with a lot of potential. I mean, I think so too. What do you like think about like everything that your dad like talks about? Like, do you disagree like heavily with his politics, or would you say like you're more so like taking the far extreme as opposed to like what he believes in, almost as like a way of rebelling?
I disagree with him a lot about a lot of things. Number one, I am a post-fascist. He is, of course, not a fascist in any sense.
Oh. Oh, this is quite interesting.
And that's something we are always going to disagree on, no matter what. Our most recent and largest disagreement was on the Holocaust.
Okay, well, we're
And
on YouTube, so just don't get me banned.
yeah, we had a disagreement on that.
Oh God. Oh God, man. All right, well, fair enough. Okay, so you've had a couple back and forths with your father. You've had a couple disagreements.
Let's explain so much. Let's go back to JF.
Extreme things. Like, have you ever had a fascination with like that kind of personality?
Yes, I wouldn't say I have a fascination with the personality, but I've always been following police work. So I love the police work aspect of this. I love all these police interview of killers. I'm not fascinated by the killers that much because I think the few that I've went deep into, I find broken people. I find broken people who resent society, who have basically chosen to lose. They've chosen to be the loser of society instead of just play the game of society. It's not so hard. Reproduce, make babies, build a family, and you'll die happy. And they've kind of chosen against this.
Yeah, and it's ultimately self-destructive, but like that's something that can happen. Like people have like narcissistic personality disorder. They can like start getting to like a psychotic, like delusional space from it, and it can be like wild to witness. They'll like engage in like crazy behavior.
Absolutely.
I just always found it interesting. Obviously, you're like a neuroscientist, so this is like right up your alley, just like how the human mind works, you know?
Yeah, and this will be the subject of my second book. The human mind works in so many ways. First, layers of decision making, past expectations, some risk, some amount of risk, because you want to not be stuck in a behavioral pattern. You want to supplant the others in competition. So you need some risk taking, especially if you're a male, because now your reproductive success relies mostly on on your capacity to impress women. So there's so many layers, but ultimately we are built to create a virtual facade, a virtual social facade, to interact with society. We kind of have a cardboard of ourselves, like the cardboard salesman that you see in car dealerships, where we have this display to others, and then we have our internal processes that sometimes are weirder, sometimes they're as simple as a cardboard.
Interesting. And do you feel like the person you are online is the same online and off, or do you ever feel like you're leaning into anything? Like, what's your?
I believe. Well, the thing is, it's very different. I'm a performer, so I'm here to entertain and inform. And sometimes my entertainment and information include provocation for the purpose of self-examination. And so there's people who get a very weird idea of who I am for real, and if they saw my everyday life, they would see different. But there's also people who, through the performative aspects of my job, they can see a real human being interested in the truth. And these guys, they have it pretty much right. The guy that I am a teacher who enjoys provoking, who enjoys taking people where they have not went before.
I'm not gonna lie, I have a similar thing. I don't know what it is about me, but I also like feel very compelled to find out like what is true. I'm a very curious person, but I also do kind of like shocking people sometimes. You know, it's like I probably should be more ashamed that I was a drug addict, but it's like there's a small part of me that's just like, you know, I beat it. You know, I won. I wanted to. I don't know. There is like a weird fucked up. Like,
I think it's great what you do. I think it's great because we need narratives that don't keep this under the hood, because polite society wants to keep addiction under the hood. But the fact is that there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people who will fall addicted to something new this year. So we have to talk about it. And I think what you do is great. And I think it's the age of YouTube. You know, it's the age where every single little thing, there will be a YouTube channel about it. There are YouTube channels about miniature baby doll houses. There's a YouTube channel about addiction. There has to be a YouTube channel about everything, except, of course, the political subjects that I tend to explore. And for this, there is a Rumble channel.
In your experience, so you used to be involved in academia, and you find it kind of like oppressive. And,
oh, yeah.
and I've definitely, I live near Yale, so there's definitely a lot of like snootiness and a lot of just like super ideologically like rigid viewpoints, a lot of witch hunts and just weird shit I've seen happen.
Oh, yeah.
Was that kind of, do you feel like you had that kind of experience?
Oh yeah, the academia is an entirely social phenomenon. So it has everything that a bunch of mean girls would have: rejection, hit pieces, lies, and talking in the back of everyone. And ultimately, it's a very unhealthy place for the pursuit of truth, which is why around 2015, I was like, okay, I'm very successful in academia, and I'm not super proud of what I had to do to be successful. I had to chill with these people, dine with these people.
Move around a bit.
My life to abuse back to the. I mean, to see it from. And people just can't help it. It's a very interesting thing because the academia has.
Or move around where an Ava pops up, and that's where the fun begins again.
I have a few questions. Thanks for coming on, by the way, JF. It's very gracious of you to do. And I'm just wondering, what do you miss most about your was it your wife?
My common law spouse, Mama JF.
Yeah.
What do I miss the most about her?
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's hard to miss something from such a eclectic mind. Let's say I really enjoyed the fact that she's gone. But I guess I may miss some of the excitement of a absolutely crazy mind that can make up things. I guess I miss the days where she was truly adoring me as a hero and as a king. And I miss the days where I was with this woman who was admiring me as such a god that she went do illegal graffitis in my name. Apparently, people are claiming that she went out there and made graffiti saying how much I'm a king of the world. I miss that.
Oh, I saw. Oh, I was gonna upload. I saw that picture in the footage of her doing graffiti, and she was writing like, yeah, she was writing, "I love JF Graffiti," and then she also wrote something about like Worski, and I was like, bro, she's spray painting the names of all these YouTubers just all over town. Fuck.
No, that's a woman right there. That's the woman you guys deserve. That's a woman I need in my life.
I don't know if I uploaded it. I
Yes.
can probably pull up the image pretty quickly.
Okay. Okay. So you're kind of trolling right now.
I'm not trolling.
No,
That's what I
you
miss.
definitely are, because there's no way that someone actually like serious would be saying that, right?
No,
Like,
that's seriously what a healthy relationship
But-
is between a man and a woman. Of course, you, woman of the 2025 era, you can't understand because you have
Okay, I
been
have another-
brainwashed by feminism.
hold on.
You've been
Okay. Yes, I'm a
brainwashed.
yeah. I'm a brainwashed feminist. But okay, so why are you so honed in on this one narrative of that she left and that she's okay? Like, why do you not weigh the possibility of anything else that could have possibly happened? Like, what if somebody had
I'm
taken her phone and you know, like you would think that you'd be racking your brain for all the possible possibilities, but it just seems odd to me that you're stuck on like this one particular narrative.
I'm open to all possibility, but I, as a common law spouse of Mama JF, I'm obligated to believe first and foremost her word. And her
But what if
word
that's
to
not
me
her word,
that
though?
that I still carry on my phone, which no doubt came from her, because she was telling me private things that only she knew. And she was speaking in the way she usually speaks, in a way that's very recognizable, in French. And her words in French to me are, JF, I'm about to disappear. You'll never hear from me again. No one ever will. I have to go by what I know, and this is what I know for sure.
So what did she say to you that only you would know? Or the
But she
only
was talking. She gave me her Gmail password, which I already knew. She was talking in French in ways that are very Quebecois recognizable. No doubt it was her. In fact, we had a little phone conversation in that time where she was texting me. It's just that there was bad reception, so we switched to text.
she gave you your Gmail password, and there's proof of that?
There's proof. Yes, the police has all this conversation, and I've been interviewed about the conversation.
I kind of wonder how hard would it be to go to the police himself or pay for the report to get that information to, you know, double check whether or not it's true or not. It actually would be quite interesting.
And I translated from French to English to them so that they could understand what every word meant.
Oh, the police?
But wouldn't they have a? Well, maybe they wouldn't, but I can imagine they would at least have one French translator and at least some of the provinces throughout Canada.
Didn't even speak French.
Well,
So you
I mean,
translated
they
it.
could verify later, but I was speaking to an English policeman, as it turned out, so I was explaining to him that that's what a translator would tell you about these words.
Okay. All right. What if somebody? I don't know. It just feels so odd to me that you're. I don't know anything about. I don't know anything about your case, right? Like, so, I think the reason why I'm kind of coming in hot here is because it just seems so odd to me that like you just don't seem to be like upset about this or wanting to like spread awareness about like where could she have possibly gone. I mean, it's the mother of your children, right? Like even if she left and you're like, okay, you're just happy with her leaving and you don't want to make sure that she's like okay for like the sake of your
Stop
kid.
thinking about what I seem to project and start thinking about my effective action. Do you think I could have acted in any other way that would further amplify the public interest in the disappearance of Mama JF? Mama JF is an international star with tens of millions of people wanting to find her. I don't think I could have made a
Tens
better job, even if I wanted, for her story to be more exposed.
Tens of millions? No, I didn't even know. I'm into true crime and I haven't even known about this. Like,
Well, yeah,
I didn't have to lie on Neba's part that she didn't know that because how. Well, to be fair, it's not the only really spoken about among certain circles, so maybe.
because you don't know about the internet, but once you get connected,
No,
it's a great place. Get fiber
I'm
optics
on the
and
internet.
stop talking us from your cell phone.
Okay. Wait, hold
Get
on.
connected.
Wait 1 second.
Wait, Ava, you might have to leave and rejoin. It's getting that little like that that sound. I don't know why that happens, but I think if you leave and rejoin, it'll fix.
Okay,
And also,
that's
XP is backstage, and we got Dono from Schizo. But thank you so much, great channel. Jeff, how do you feel about crowd downfall?
Oh, I feel great because that's a YouTuber skeleton that I wear on my hood every time I drive around town. Here's a YouTuber that I literally destroyed. And he came back, and now he's doing really useless stuff that's not interesting, but he's not confronting anymore the way he wanted to be, confronting right-wing ideas because he knows he lost. He told me as much the Christmas of his destruction. He told me, you won, JF.
Wow. Welcome, XP.
One of these days, we gotta go through and watch about watch a whole video on the whole downfall of Kraut, because that right there is the whole topic.
Hey, what's going on, Ruby? How you doing? How's my audio today?
It's okay. It's a little crackly, but we don't want to hold it too much longer. But
Yeah,
we'll take a couple questions from XP and we'll let you go.
Yeah, honestly,
Sorry, interrogation session.
I just got one question, really, and I can't even take credit for this myself. This is something I saw in chat that wasn't get brought up, so I wanted to bring some awareness to it. One of the chatters was asking, when you said that you were able to verify it was her, JF, because you knew her password to her accounts, wouldn't that then mean that if you know the passwords to her accounts, that you could have been the one sending the messages because you could have just logged in?
I mean, if you think that I'm talented enough to have a false cell phone tower send a false signal from New Brunswick to me while I'm physically on Prince Edward Island, then yes, I guess in theory your ID works. But in practice, I cannot emulate a false tower at 2 physical locations that the police would immediately know about.
I mean, unless you have both phones on hand and uses text the way she does, because it shouldn't be too hard to mimic the way she texts and talks, right?
Yes, I know a couple of
Plus, I wouldn't be surprised if phone companies do keep some records of people's conversations. So there's that to think about as well.
passwords from Mama JF, but not to the point where I could physically control her cell phone SMS.
I believe cell phone spoofing is. I'm not an expert on this subject, and honestly, I'm not even all that familiar. I don't even know who you are, so I'm coming at this blind. I'm asking questions here. But I believe cell phone spoofing is definitely a thing. I think definitely
Spoofing is a thing, but try to spoof from a different physical tower while sending across 2 different provinces without a collaborator of some kind. That's kind of hard, and that doesn't even get you to where I would have killed Mama JF. You're getting to, oh well, I would have faked her last message to me, but then what? How do I kill Mama JF, who's in New Brunswick, while I'm in Prince Edward Island?
Shout out to Distinction in the chat. As far as my brain cracking in regards to the question, like I said, this wasn't my question. I'm just reporting what the chat wanted.
I'm XP. I can just like hardly hear you.
Yeah,
I'm so-
yeah. Hold
I'm
on.
so
Can I
sorry.
ask a question?
I just
His audio is always horrible.
I can't hear him.
I just googled it. Yeah. Go ahead and read that first.
Jakey, thank you. Or Jakey said, "Hey Jeff, I'm a Christian, but I love your book. Fuck these haters." So you've got some supporters, but
Yeah.
definitely divisive. I feel like the people are divided because there's just a lot. It's a very wild case, especially the way you describe it. It's hard to believe, but sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. So I don't want to act like that's not even an option.
Can I ask? Because I just googled the case details like while I was disconnected for a second there, and it says that like she left her credit cards and stuff at home, and that there was no evidence of like Gmail passwords being shared or anything.
I don't know where you get this. There was no evidence of Gmail password. It did happen, and it's a conversation that the police has. Now, as far
How
as
about the
leaving her
credit card?
cards, yeah, she did leave the family's credit card, and she told me if it can help you manage the finances, continue managing the finance in a way that protects our wealth for our children and for the inheritance toward our children.
And it also said that she left a cell phone as well. Is that not true, or is Google just lying to me?
No, Google is just lying here if it's saying this. She took her cell phone, but got rid of it 2 days later on the streets.
Why do you think she would do that?
Well, maybe because she had read Edward Snowden's permanent record and she went paranoid and said, I don't want to leave any record, I want to be free from the Matrix. That sounds like the most plausible reasoning based on what I know.
Oh, we got Lala here.
Okay.
All right. So a lot of people have had
Sweet
questions about your
Blair.
case, and I gotta say, JF, I've heard that you deep cleaned your abode right
Who
after the
fuck-
disappearance of JF.
What race are you exactly?
Yes.
Hispanic?
Yeah, I love that part. That part made me laugh.
Would you like the white girl to ask it for you instead?
Yeah,
I do not talk to low IQ individuals.
that
JF,
sounds
JF.
like, that's the kind of accent I expected from this guy. Okay, so you're saying what, sorry?
So basically, you deep cleaned your place after your wife went missing, which coincidentally would seem like something somebody guilty would do if something were to happen horribly in that house to clean it. Like you deep cleaned it with like a suit on and all that, right? Bleach.
Well, I mean, bleach. Yes, I use scrubbing bubbles, actually, which contains bleach. What can I say? There's other reason to clean a house than you have killed someone. And
No,
one
of course.
the reasons is you just had your spouse leave and she told you, I'm leaving forever. And now you have a whole house to care for yourself and you want to put it in some degree of order and some degree of cleaning. So yes, I did use scrubbing bubbles. Yes, I did.
So that was the first time you deep cleaned the house like ever, basically, after she was
No.
non-existent.
No, where do you get that it's the first time I ever
Because
did?
you implied that Mama JF was cleaning it prior, so I mean, probably right.
She was participating to the care of the house before, but I was also doing it sometimes. I'm not leaving it as an exclusive female responsibility. Sometimes I clean, yes.
Ah, okay. So my thing with you is that at some point, I feel like, are people still searching? Because people aren't really following your case really on the internet. After a certain amount of months, it's been, what, a year? Like, what do you think happened? Did
2
she, like,
years.
starve to death? 2 years? Wow, that's
Well,
rough. That's tough.
I've already answered these questions with Ruby. What do I think happened? I think that my hypothesis that I like to live with is that she didn't get killed or raped by a random trucker, and that she's out there with a weird guy just fresh coming out of a psychiatric hospital, and they're just tripping in some shack of Canada, maybe making babies even.
Okay, I
But
have a
you
great
said that
question.
there's a possibility that she possibly could have been kidnapped and raped, right? You're just saying that you don't
There's
want
a
to believe
possibility
that.
she's
But if
been-
you
yeah.
actually truly cared about her, right? Like you would consider that as a possibility and looking to find
Yeah.
her. Because isn't it also true that she had some kind of intellectual disability or something
that's
along those
not true.
lines that I've heard?
That is absolutely not true. And no, I do
Ruby,
not
can
care
you-
about her. I am
is
with
that
a new
true?
woman, and that's all I care about. My
How
current
much
family.
higher is her
I'm
IQ
not-
than Mama JF? IQ
She
difference.
Mama
seems
JF
fairly
is
like
120
neurodivergent
IQ
to some degree,
approximately.
but unclear.
Jesus.
She's
Mama
neuro-
Should've been a
JF
lawyer.
is about 120 IQ. She is an extremely talented violinist and an artistic mind of the kind that I have rarely seen in females.
Okay, now my next question for you, JF, is that you said that you loved when Mama JF would venerate you as a hero of sorts in her life, right? Small mind, you were the hero in that mind. Now, my question to you is, how come she worshipped you yet basically ran away like a stray cat? Like, what was that all about?
So you see, you don't integrate the actual response that I give you. You are paranoid and you invent stuff like she had a small mind. Who said that? You
Okay,
decide this.
no, she's smart and she plays violin. That's
So
true.
you are trying to ask loaded questions on things that I've already answered, and you are doing so in such a gay tone of voice. That I'm
You're the
gonna
one that
have
sounds
to
like a
There's a lot
liberal
of
Nazi
load
over there.
behind
That's
the
I
crazy.
information.
refuse
out
to
there.
submit myself to such gayness. You are
Gayness.
disgusting.
It's
Stop anal
disgusting.
sex, please.
Stop anal sex. Oh, suffer,
Hold on.
bitch. Let's
Someone-
go.
Hold on. I have another question.
Oh
Someone
no,
said
he
that-
rage quit. Lalo, you're in everything.
Let's go.
Fucking bro. Oh my god, Lolo.
French Canadian bacon got fucking cooked. Yes, let's go. We got
Because
belted.
someone is saying that she's like delusional and has some kind of mental issues, and if somebody have mental issues like that, you would think that you would have a little bit of
Oh,
concern if they had
Leave, did he?
if they would have
He
some
did.
kind of concern that maybe
Oh,
something
that's
would happen.
better to see it.
And I want to clarify earlier the reason why
Get
I
your
said
fucking
like,
ass back on here. Sorry.
there's no way that he was being serious in trying to convince us that he didn't. Oh damn it.
God damn it.
There's no way that he's like being serious when he was trying to convince us. When I asked him, what do
Okay.
you miss? Hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Notes about her, and he's literally just saying that he doesn't miss her and that he has his new girl and all this shit. Like, there's no way he's being serious in trying to like convince us of his innocence. Like at that point, he's just fucking off and saying, I don't even care about convincing anyone. I'm just gonna troll here. Or
Well,
he's
it's pretty
just
stupid to
an
even go on
insane
panel and try to
psychopath.
defend
Like, that's
yourself
crazy
against
to say.
murder.
Oh well.
You guys know how stupid
All
you
right.
look up here?
I'm cashing in my chips. I won.
Laylo, you
Congratulations.
didn't win shit, dude. You were so embarrassing the guy didn't even want to stick around.
It was-
Laylo, you are the most
I mean,
embarrassing guy,
listen,
the
people,
most
the interview was
unaware.
wrapping up. The interview was wrapping up anyway because there's going to be.
Well, that's really it. That's really what I wanted to cover. More of JF's situation. There's really not much that really happened today besides that. I feel like even though they were toward the end of the interview, I would have liked to see more about what JF, them talking about things like IQ, race, and all that. That would have been a lot interesting to hear. But we didn't get that because Lalo fucking decided to cuck everything. That was very great. To the point where on his Twitter account he's a little they were a little salty. Let's look at his Twitter account about that, right? Because that was oh boy. Let's see what we can find. There we go. Let me see if we can find it before I do anything. There we go. Here we go. Basically, this stuff. This is what they were saying. So this show reminds us that we are not equal. To talk with normies is like visiting another alien species on an uncivilized planet in the path of self-destruction who hates you for telling the truth. This was fantastic. You left at the perfect time, making things spicy. You also called out the Mexican Lalo on the way out. Reminds me of the old days. Ruby speaking, and there you go. There's really not much we can, and obviously Richard Spencer. There's really not much we can say, or much I can cover. Even though I'm very tired and on the very edge of passing out. That's really it. I feel like the interview could have gone much better. I think bringing up people probably should have not been the way, and they should have just had to just focus. It should have been just Ruby and JF just talking, converting, just talking, and nothing else, and not bring up people. Maybe Ruby should have asked people, hey, you guys have any questions? Let's bring those up now before the end of the interview, and just left it at that. But obviously that didn't end up happening. That didn't end up happening at all. But I think it is what it is. It's truly it is what it is, and there's not really much you can do. I think having people like Lalo up didn't help. Ava was one thing, but having Lalo up probably wasn't the best option. Apparently, Rastov quit, and Local Live has 100 and did he start streaming? Hold up. Did something happen on Local Live? Hold up. Let's go over there real fast. See what's happening over there on Local Live. Looks like Rastov is scamming the audience. What the fuck is going on? I literally just... Hold up, let's see what this is about.
Go ahead. Feel free to pop into chat. Let's see what you have to say.
I was planning to go to sleep.
Nothing but lies? I don't know. I mean, you tell me.
I think-
Hey, what's up, man?
Is he drunk?
Were you watching just now when Rastov decided to quit?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the good news is he doesn't have to stream for 2 hours tomorrow, so at least he got out of that.
Hold up.
At least he doesn't have to do his job.
Hold up. Did he... I don't really believe he quit. This could be another...
I had to fucking update that right away, too.
I see.
Well, we're going to have another shit show, ladies and gentlemen.
The chat cannot decide.
And that's a good thing, because at
What
least
the
half
hell?
of them liked it. They've been pretty decisive so far.
They said try again.
Yeah, pick something else on that row.
Pick something else on that specific row. Okay.
No, go down 3 more. Go down 3 more than that.
I'm just gonna scroll.
And then the top left, guilty. Put guilty. I don't know what guilty is. Click on that.
All right.
47 minutes.
Move this up a little bit.
I mean, this is his show. Like, I can't stop him from jumping up on his show.
Sure
He's
you can,
left like
yeah.
3 times. Oh, for fuck's sake, bro. I can't be, dude. I seriously can't be fucked. Like, actually, all right. Actually, I listened to the boss. The boss says there's no fucking shows today. There's no fucking shows on Monday. So someone else has to take the time slot. So Boogie's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try and fucking plan a show. Like, we're meant to be picking who's taking the time slot. And he's like, well, I'm just going to stream anyway. And then he fucking makes a decision and then tries to fucking guilt trip me on it by being like, well, I'm doing all of these things for you. One, you're not my boss. So you don't just get to decide what I do. You don't just get to decide that I have to do X, Y, and Z, right? I said I had to take the day off yesterday because it was literally the last day that I have with my lady because she's at work today, she's at work tomorrow, and then I'm gone, right? She couldn't get the days off today and tomorrow, so I had to spend yesterday with her. I wanted to spend yesterday with her because I'm going to fucking miss her, all right? I'm going to miss her like hell. I've never been apart from her since we've been together. I haven't, okay? And so he couldn't fucking set up the stream properly, so that becomes my fault. That becomes my fucking problem. No, it's your problem. You decided that you wanted to stream yesterday on your own. You decided that you wanted to do the fucking solo stream with your friends. If you couldn't set it up, that's your fucking problem. He never once told me he was having a problem. He just asked me if I was going to show up. That's all he did. And I said, yeah, if I have time, I'll show
You're
up.
right. I decide if I stream tomorrow. I decide if I'm going to be at the Buffalo Airport tomorrow too, huh? Don't it? Turns out I decide who sleeps in the Airbnb that's in my name. You're right. I do make those decisions. You're right. You're right. But you can't do me any fucking favors, but I'll do a bunch for you. That sounds about right.
That's not how this works, though. You can't just like...
Yeah, clearly fucking not. I do everything, and you say, thank you
This is gonna be a long night. Oh boy.
sometimes. And then when I ask you for a favor last night, oh, I can't be fucked. I can't be fucked. I ask you for a favor tomorrow, I can't be fucked. I gotta print things out. You have to print
This
things
right
out,
here
man.
is why I don't care if I get fired from this show, because doing this every day
go,
sucks.
Go.
This isn't
I
fun.
cared a week
This isn't
ago.
enjoyable
After a
for
week of
anybody.
this-
It's not
after a week
enjoyable
ago,
for me.
I don't care either. Good. After a week of this, I don't care either.
Good. Don't care. I don't want you to care. I don't need you to care.
I don't. I promise you I don't. I promise you, Sammy's life, if I'm lying, if I'm acting, if I'm pretending right now, may God strike that dog dead in the next 30 seconds. That's how fucking dead serious I am.
Oh god, Boogie, why are you like this?
Then be dead serious.
I am. I wonder why Wings doesn't want to come back. No, we gave Rastov so much more slack than Wings. It's crazy. Crazy how much more slack this guy got. Oh my God, it's crazy. Been over backwards to try to change this man's life. But I'm glad we didn't. What am I eating right now? I'm not eating anything. It's called winding down the clock, boys. That's what he's doing. He's winding down the clock.
No, I mean, you completely derailed everything that I wanted to do today. You told me I was going to be by myself. Now I'm not by myself, right? Like
I was told I had to be here. I was told I had to be here because you can't carry a show.
that's
You don't think
again,
I'd
that's
rather
not
be
my
packing?
problem.
You don't think I'd rather be packing? You don't think I'd rather be spending a day with my girl gathering my things? You don't think I'd rather be doing that? Well, you don't think I wouldn't like a day off? You don't think I'd like to leave on time tomorrow? This is the job, dude. This is the job. The job is to show up on time, entertain, and make money, have fun doing it. And yes, I'm having fun up until the point that I asked you again for the third time for this favor, and I'll come be fucked, but don't forget to see me at the airport. Okay, I will. But you can't be fucked. I get it. 2 hours of time is
No, I can't be
not
fucked
worth
dealing with you
2 hours of my
like,
time.
constantly doing
2
this to
hours
me
of your
every
time.
fucking day.
What constantly every day? This is the last chance. This was the last chance to pay me back the favor. This was your last fucking chance, and you say no. So guess what? Fuck the airport. Stay in New Zealand. Stay in Australia.
Fine, I will. I'm not coming. Fuck you.
Okay. Okay, I guess that happened.
Ask someone else for a ride. What about Xylee? Xylee's going to be there. Have Xylee pick her up. Glammy's going to be there.
I'll be right back.
Have Glammy pick her up. Ask Keemstar to pick him up. Y'all act like there's no option other than Boogie. It's only Boogie or nobody. It's only Boogie or nobody. He's got all the options in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Ask for somewhere else to stay, not in my Airbnb. Ask for someone else to give you a ride. You're good. You're good. You offered? I am rescinding the offer. I am rescinding the offer officially. The offer is officially off the fucking table. I asked you to stream for me yesterday. You said no. I asked you to make it up to me by streaming tomorrow. You said no. So the answer is enjoy. Enjoy.
So what was the reason he quit for? Because I wasn't able to watch the live stream.
I asked him to live stream tomorrow so I could leave on time and to pick him up. Keem wants someone to stream tomorrow. I agreed. Oh shit! I'm showing the Discord. Sorry, I'm in a very anxious mood right now, as you can imagine. Keem asked me to see if we could arrange a stream tomorrow. I said that I would do everything I could humanly possible. I asked Rastov to do it so I didn't have to leave late, so that I could leave on time tomorrow. He's like,
so Boogie just crying again because he made Rastov quit again over something really stupid. Like, come on, dude. Like, let it be.
And you still give me a
Why?
King's place every day, right?
Sub IQ brains, sub IQ knuckle draggers.
Yeah, I mean, so where would he be live streaming from? I mean, if he's already getting on a plane coming over here.
He's not. He's not. He's got all day tomorrow. He said he had to print something out. He said he can't do it because he's got to print something out.
So he changed the date he's supposed to be getting on the plane
No. I have to leave tomorrow because I have to pick him up at the airport. He doesn't leave for 2 days. He doesn't leave till the 1st.
Oh shit.
He has a whole day more than I do. Because I'll come before I'll print something off. I'll go print me something off. I can't do it. I'll go print me paperwork. Okay. Print your paperwork then, I guess. Hope that paperwork.
And then he had excuses whenever he couldn't come to fat camp too.
Yeah. Hope that.
It's been that long, 90 hours. I don't know if I can handle something like this. I think I'm going to end it off here for the most part. Thanks everybody for staying and watching the JF stuff with me. Hopefully I wake up early and we can do a morning stream where I'm a little bit more up and ready rather than being dead and tired. Till next time, God bless.